Hello. Welcome to Muriel's Murders. I'm Muriel, and I love true crime.
I'm Nick, and I'm not a fan.
Thank you for joining our Patreon. Each episode, I force Nick to listen to me tell him a story of a true crime. All right, for this episode, we're bringing you part 2 of Sarah Brady and the Pregnant Lady Battle Royale. If you haven't listened to the first episode, you got to go back and listen to it.
It's really you did a good job. That was like Alfred Hitchcock, level of tension building.
Built it up.
That was good. That was good shit, Muriel.
Or
Very
you
good.
don't have to listen to it, Just
No, you
listen
do.
to this one and have a trivia experience.
Yeah,
Be like,
no,
who's
no,
that
no.
lady,
No, go listen to the first one. Muriel outdid herself. That was really good. I didn't know where that was going.
Sick. All right, well, that's all I got. You got anything?
No. You guys are cool. Thank you for signing up as always. If you missed it last time, we're taking a quick hiatus. We'll be back in April. We are going to continue to put out the 2 Patreons, True Crimes a month, plus the mouth noises on Patreon. So if you guys are subscribed, you'll get your content that way, but we're not putting out free episodes until we're back in April with bright, shiny new packaging.
That's great. Hey, do I have anything in my teeth?
Yes.
I do, for real?
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me?
I don't know. Let's see, is it still there? Worse. Okay, let's get started.
Do I have anything in my teeth?
No, you're good.
All right. You think you're so funny. This is a true story involving murder, violence, drugs, adult themes, etc. But you signed up for this, so it's your funeral.
We're going to joke, we're going to curse, and you're going to love it.
All right, Nikki, are you ready to hear the rest of this story?
No!
Okay. You jerk. Let's get started.
Boogers in your nose, stuff in your teeth.
Stop. All right, so we ended the last episode with 9 months pregnant Sarah Brady being dragged into an apartment by a crazed 9 months pregnant woman with a hunting knife who was either Sarah Brody, Katie Smith, or some other woman entirely.
And also, perhaps not even pregnant also, right?
So we'll start with clearing up the mystery woman's identity.
Okay, good.
This weirdo was not Sarah Brody. She was, in fact, the owner of the asthma inhaler Sarah Brady found on the bedside table, the recipient printed on the formula coupons shoved into Sarah Brady's hands, and that would be 22-year-old Katie Smith. Now, Katie Smith, she lived alone and was recently unemployed. Katie had left her job as a nanny after announcing she was expecting twins. So the pregnancy was a surprise to pretty much everyone who knew her. As far as anyone knew, she rarely dated, she didn't have a partner, and she definitely didn't have a husband. But after she announced her pregnancy, Katie, who was already a big girl, she started rapidly gaining weight. She switched to wearing exclusively maternity clothes and proudly showed friends and family her ultrasound photo, a picture-perfect image of twin beating hearts.
Okay, obviously she's not really pregnant.
So Katie was an open book, or at least an oversharer. Any friends?
Yeah, that's hilarious. Like, I'm really an open book. It's like, oh my God, close it. Actually close the book.
I think I'm like that. As a human being.
You've been accused of info dumping. That accusation's been tossed around a few times. I defend you against that.
That is not true.
No, if someone calls you
you
info
literally
dumper,
accuse me of it. You lie.
but if someone else does it, I'll jump to your defense.
You're the only one. You and my therapist.
What? Or what?
You're the only one to accuse me of info dumping. All right. So Eddie,
It's because everyone else can't get an edge in.
Shut up.
All right.
Katie was an open book, an oversharer. Any friends, neighbors, or former coworkers knew her gloomy story. Her dad was in prison. She was estranged from most of her family. Katie bounced around jobs, working as a nurse's aide, at an ice cream shop, as a nanny. She had a couple short-term terrible relationships that people knew about and largely remained single. Katie said she had lost 2 other pregnancies in the past and even showed people while she was info dumping, showed off her cesarean section scar from a previous stillbirth. So this new surprise pregnancy was a bright spot in Katie's life. It was a very wanted, pair of babies. But also, when she talked to people, it was tinged with the drama and worry of pregnancy loss. She officially announced her pregnancy over the winter holidays and started nesting, converting one of the 2 bedrooms in her apartment into a nursery. The only thing was, Katie Smith was not pregnant.
Yeah, right.
She never had been pregnant.
Mhm.
Katie had stolen the ultrasound photo from a family she'd worked for. Then she'd browsed the public registry on Babies R Us website, found a pregnant lady with the same due date as Katie's fake due date, and then made a plan to murder that pregnant lady and cut the baby out of her body.
Oh my God.
Bada bing, bada boom.
All right.
Simple as that.
Simple. That's what the hunting knife was for, apparently. She's going daughter hunting.
So while Sarah Brady was being brutally attacked and dragged back into a dark, musty apartment by her hair, all Sarah Brady could think was, why is this super pregnant lady trying to kill me on the day of her induction? Like, she's just like, this is so insane. So meanwhile, the lady attacking her was just completely not pregnant, Katie Smith, wearing a goofy-ass homemade pregnancy suit. So now, back in the apartment, it was clear no neighbors had heard Sarah Brady's screams. They were just 2 ladies with huge bellies back in the cramped, messy apartment with a hunting knife between them, getting ready for a death match. Now, this is grimy, I know, and I'll try not to get too gory with it while still telling the story, because it's definitely hard to think of a knife fight involving a pregnant lady, obviously.
Don't act like that's hard for you.
But if it's any consolation, remember, the main source for this episode is a book Sarah Brady co-wrote after having a happy, healthy baby girl.
Right, so that she survives.
All right, so back in the apartment, Katie Smith, who had lost the knife somehow, was now sitting on Sarah Brady's back, smashing her in the back of the head with a heavy glass candy dish.
Damn.
That is, until Sarah Brady managed to flip the situation. She summoned all of her 5'2" pregnant power and managed to roll Katie Smith on her back, straddle Katie Smith's stomach, and beat her in the face with the candy dish until she stopped moving.
Okay.
But it wasn't the victory it seemed like it would be for Sarah Brady. Because remember, she still thought she was fighting a pregnant person who was 2 weeks overdue. Like, she still had no idea why this nutball was attacking her in the first place, but she didn't want to kill this lady or hurt her baby. So hoping she'd just temporarily knock the woman unconscious, Sarah threw the candy dish as far as she could across the room, then jumped up, grabbed her purse and car keys, and ran to the door. But either Katie was awakened by a surge of demon-like powers, or she'd been playing possum the whole time. But as soon as Sarah made it to the front door, Katie popped off the floor like a jumping spider, and once again, the 2 women were in a standoff. Now, cautiously, maintaining eye contact, Sarah edged towards the door while Katie Smith slowly walked towards her, calmly explaining how this had all just been a big misunderstanding.
Yeah, she's like, see, I've never actually attacked anyone before, and I thought you would just fold under pressure immediately, and then I could just easily take out the baby and it would be mine. So that's really where the misunderstanding was.
I don't think you're very far off the mark with that one, but she said instead, I never meant to hurt you or anything. She said, she just didn't want Sarah to leave her. like everyone else in her life
Mhm.
had left her. And at this point, Sarah Brady is just in tears, borderline hysterical. Like literally nothing about this scenario is making sense. Like, leave you? Like, what was this woman even talking about? She started trying to reason with her. You beat me with a candy dish and you tried to stab me. We're pregnant. Like, what about our babies? What about your baby? Don't you have to be in your induction in like an hour? Right?
Yeah.
She's just trying to be like, what is happening? But by now, Katie Smith, she was close enough to Sarah Brady to tenderly touch her face. So she brushed her fingers across Sarah's face. And then Katie Smith said they weren't going to any hospital just yet. They had to clean the house before her husband got home. So Sarah, she knows it's just beyond anything she was going to be able to figure out at this point. Like,
Yeah, I don't think now is the time to like
She's like,
Sherlock Holmes
this
the situation. It's like just just walk out of the front door.
She's trying to find the angle, right? And I think she's
Okay.
starting to realize like there's no angle. There's no like, lip to the sticker that you can pull off and be like, okay, this is what's going on. Like she literally doesn't know. Like nothing has made less sense than this, right? In her life, up until this point. Right. So it's a unfathomable, crazy mess. And so in the last ditch Hail Mary move, Sarah Brady tried to break through all the insanity and the fake husbands and the pretend phone calls to fake doctors and just sort of maybe inject some reality into the situation. So she decided to call the woman the name from the inhaler and the formula coupons, what she assumed was the woman's real name. And all she said was, Katie, please. Well, unfortunately, calling Katie by her real name made things significantly worse. So, through some godforsaken twist of fate, Katie had somehow regained possession of the hunting knife. And hearing her real name spoken aloud sent her into a manic stabbing frenzy. So she came windmilling over at Sarah with the hunting knife. But once again, Katie had underestimated Sarah Brady. Sarah caught the blade of the knife with her bare hands and held on like a vice clamp. No matter what Katie did, she could not free the hunting knife. Katie swung Sarah around the living room. Katie body slammed Sarah against the wall. And not only did Sarah hang on to the knife, she managed to do it one-handed and use the other hand to grab Katie's cordless house phone and call 911. But the physical logistics of the situation didn't make the 911 call as triumphant as one would hope. Sarah had to dial blind. There's blood everywhere. She couldn't actually even see the face of the phone. And Katie kept her from bringing the phone anywhere close to her face. So all Sarah could do was like mash the buttons and scream help. She didn't even know if she had dialed correctly. So now the women are face to face. They're fighting over the knife in one hand, fighting over the phone in the other. And Sarah, holding the blade of a 4-inch hunting knife with her bare hand, won out. With her hands gashed and bleeding, she managed to wrestle the knife away from Katie Smith and run once again to the door. And driven by a relentless motor, Katie Smith threw herself toward Sarah and the door, and Sarah turned around and stabbed Katie's ass in the shoulder. Now, this stabbing was intentional. Still, after the brutal knife fight, Sarah Brady did not want to actually kill a pregnant woman. She figured a shoulder stab would end things relatively peacefully. Katie was absolutely shocked, like incredulously screaming, "You stabbed me. still lunging at Sarah. So Sarah, pumped with adrenaline and out of options, she takes that knife back and she shoves Katie over the love seat. Katie flips over the love seat, smacks her head against the wall, is knocked out cold. So
I'm like actually riveted. This is crazy.
So Sarah Brady had just spent about an hour being bonked around in a washing machine of insanity, right? It was all way too much, for real too much for anybody. So instead of grabbing her purse and her car keys, Sarah clutched the bloody knife in a stabbing position and Katie Smith's bloody cordless home phone, which for our younger listeners is not a cell phone. This is a home phone without a cord that loses its range if you go too far away from the phone base in the house. So not entirely useful if you're trying to escape from the house where the phone is located.
Correct.
Right? Like it's not going to be of much use past the front porch. So that's what she has in her two hands. And then she opens the door and she makes a dead run out of the apartment building into the bright and sunny winter afternoon. The little Kentucky suburb was quiet. It was a Thursday just before lunchtime. People were either at work or inside, avoiding the cold, making their turkey sandwiches. And then, into the mild-mannered suburban day, Sarah Brady came running across the frozen ground, no coat, hugely pregnant, completely covered in blood, holding a bloody hunting knife and a bloody house phone. And, she couldn't get into her car. She had no cell phone, just a knife and a deep primal burst of adrenaline. So she ran down the yard towards the street. She saw an older lady driving a red Jeep Cherokee, and she ran up to the car, waving the bloody knife and screaming incoherently. So that lady did not stop the car, which probably, I would say in honesty, is fair play.
Yeah.
You're not quite sure what's going on there. But she did slow down enough to roll down her window and go, "Hey, go out to the police station up the hill on the Dixie Highway if you need any help." And then she drove away. And then Sarah was like totally alone just in this place. She thought there would be tons of people.
Yeah.
It was just dead quiet. There was no one on the street. It was cold outside. The houses seemed empty. Most people were probably at work.
This would make such a good movie. Are you kidding me?
It's like noon. So scary. So with the bloody phone and knife in hand, Sarah Brady waddled up about 100 yards towards Dixie Highway.
I'm saying right now, if that was me and the lady, I think I probably just would have been like, I'll go get the police real quick. Not just like, because you don't know, this crazy person with a knife, she could easily been the one doing the stabbing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But then also just like, okay, bye now. I think I would be like, all right, I'll drive up to the police.
I mean, this is the only thing I'd say. Yeah. I think some of what might have gotten Sarah into trouble in the first place is just talking too much to Katie, right? Like maybe you don't want to go, here's the plan. You're going to go up and talk to the police. I'm going to go back to my house and call night. Like maybe it's just a matter of like, there's a police station and then just drive away.
I'm just saying as a person, no, I would have, maybe if I did say that, but then you drive a block, you think, wait a minute, I need to go to the police station.
Right.
You don't tell her anything. You just go to the police.
Yeah. See, I think that would be a good idea. And remember also for our younger listeners, this is still a time when not everyone had a cell phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like Sarah Brady definitely didn't have one.
She may have had one, but her purse, I think she did have one, but her purse is still in the apartment. Yeah. And I believe Katie Smith also had one, but there are several people in this story who did not, including this woman.
Yeah.
So she's like kind of like waddling up this hill, right? It's all sandy. It's terrible. She attempts to call 911 twice, but was out of range of the phone base.
Right.
So the phone keeps disconnecting. And then she saw another woman driving a minivan with what looked to be like a young mom with a little girl in the back seat. And again, Sarah, great. Someone's here to rescue me. I'm going to run up to the vehicle, knife in hand, stabbing motion, covered in blood, screaming, But this time she caught her image in the glass of the window, covered in blood, doing the bloody knife thing, a terrified child in the backseat, and it kind of helped snap her back to like present reality. So she just like dropped the knife in the grass. And this woman stopped this time. She got out of the minivan to talk to Sarah. Sarah just crumpled into the grass. The woman tried to help calm her down, and she said, I'm going to run back to my house and call 911. But within seconds, an officer appeared. It turns out a bunch of 911s had been made. 911 calls had been made about Sarah Brady. Now, the first thing the officer asked was she okay? It was whether or not she had a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So exhausted, Sarah just half waved at the bloody hunting knife over there in the grass. She was totally out of it, talking about an attack and a second pregnant woman and a stabbing. When paramedics came, Sarah obviously had injuries to her hands from holding the blade of the knife, but you couldn't tell paramedics if she was injured elsewhere. She was just totally incoherent. Regardless, her heartbeat was going so nuts that they rushed her to the hospital to try to make sure they were stabilizing the baby and her health. And then, unfortunately, Sarah's bizarre day continued at the hospital. So good news, Sarah was evaluated and she and the baby checked out just fine. Katie Smith had bitten her several times that she hadn't even noticed. And she had cuts and slashes and bruises, but she hadn't been stabbed in any significant way.
Yeah.
The bad news, police were basically turning her hospital room into an interrogation room. Like, Sarah at first wasn't allowed to make any phone calls, and police took about 30 photographs of her injuries, but no one was really telling her what was going on. Like, as far as she was concerned, she's like, I was just attacked.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm a victim. And then they made Sarah go over her story over and over and over again. Then, like, checking her injuries against her version of events and questioning different things. And police seemed agitated, or at least they weren't treating Sarah like she was a victim. And one of the sticking points they kept coming back to was Katie Smith's pregnancy. Investigators wanted to know why on earth Sarah Brady was so insistent this woman was pregnant. And Sarah was like, 'cause she is? Like,
right.
She's 9 months, she's going to be inducted? Like, she is? Like, why are you acting like I'm crazy? She looks pregnant. And their response was, not only was Katie Smith not pregnant, she was also dead.
Ooh.
Sarah had stabbed her to death. Apparently, she had inadvertently nicked an artery in her shoulder,
damn.
and Katie had bled out just minutes after Sarah left the apartment.
Whoa.
So pretty quickly, Sarah Brady's story hit the news, and her fiancé, Scott, made it over to the hospital. Sarah was medically fine, but technically this had triggered early labor symptoms. So doctors thought it would be days before Sarah would give birth. So they discharged her for the time being, and police wanted to take her down to the station for a formal questioning immediately. And Scott asked, listen, okay, is she under arrest? And police were, they were not friendly, right? Like, they're like, she's not under arrest, not yet, but she's gonna be, right? So Scott was like, all right, she's not under arrest. Nope. Sarah's tired. She's injured. She hasn't eaten all day. She's in labor. She is gonna go home to rest. They were good. They were gonna wait until the morning. Sarah just got up, got dressed, and said she was just gonna do it. She's like, I didn't do anything wrong. She's just like wanted the stupid interrogation to and just end the nightmare. She wanted to be done with it, right?
Yeah.
So at the station, Sarah told police the whole story again, saying, I never wanted to kill a pregnant woman. She said she stabbed Katie in the shoulder to get her away. The stab was shallow, and she did it in the shoulder on purpose, thinking it would do less damage. And when she left the apartment, Katie was still alive. And frankly, she had no idea, what the woman was going to do next. So she left the apartment so quickly, she was completely unaware she'd sliced Katie's artery. Now, up until this point, it didn't occur to Sarah Brady to call a lawyer. But folks, remember, you do that no matter how obvious it is that a
Yeah.
crazy lady tried to kill you.
Yeah.
Just call them.
Yeah, right.
And Scott's family is a little more like connected and with it in that regard, right? So, Scott's family was kind of on it. And one of the brothers thought the whole thing was really going sideways and called a lawyer for Sarah to come down to the station immediately, and they stopped the interview. And after the lawyer talked with the police, to everyone's relief, investigators essentially told Sarah's lawyer, listen, Sarah's cool. We know this is self-defense. They just needed more information because apparently there was just a lot of confusing and conflicting evidence. So a couple days after the ordeal, Katie Smith's family came out and apologized for Katie's behavior. And Sarah, for her part, also expressed condolences in her public interviews. And in the end, she said she's sorry the Smiths had lost their daughter. She still wasn't intentional. Although as more info came out, Sarah did get a little more mad about the whole thing. She found out about how Katie Smith found her information on the baby registry and bought items off her registry to lure her into the apartment. How she had created the fake name Sarah Brody to sell her story a little better. Sarah also discovered police had found some of Sarah and Scott's mail in Katie's apartment.
Yeah.
Stuff that she would have had to get out of their house.
Yeah, she was obviously stalking them on some level.
And based on the dates on the mail, it had been at least a month that she had been stalking them. So
she was waiting as close to her due date as possible, I guess, because she thinks then I'll cut open the baby and it'll just be ready and happy to be here.
Apparently. So, now it turns into, okay, this is more than a psychotic break. It was apparently a prolonged and planned attack. Detectives also believe Sarah wasn't the only intended victim. They had evidence that Katie Smith had faked at least 3 other pregnancies at that time and had collected other women's information off baby registries in the past.
Damn. What was up with their C-section scar?
It wasn't a C-section scar. It was just from a different surgery.
Accident or something.
I think it actually might have been from an elective surgery when she was younger and was always going to the hospital. Trying to like an exploratory thing or something like that, if I remember correctly. It was a scar.
Yeah.
Just not what you said it was. Right. But Nick, this wasn't the end. Investigators came back to Sarah Brady a bit later saying hey, I know, but we're not closing the case because apparently now Katie Smith's family were accusing Sarah Brady of trying to sell her baby and double-crossing Katie for the money.
Come on.
So the Smiths told police the plan was always for Sarah to sell Katie her baby and that Katie Smith had already paid the $5,000 fee up front. But what they say happened is Sarah Brady changed her mind at the last minute, murdered Katie, and kept the money and the baby. And apparently they said there were witnesses willing to testify that they saw Sarah Brady's car near Katie's house multiple times before the incident, months before. They were having these frequent meetings leading up to Sarah Brady's birth. Now, Sarah had to come back to the police station and subject herself to a 6.5-hour lie detector test to prove she wasn't trying to sell her damn baby.
It also seems like a pretty easy, bank statements. Was $5,000 extracted? Was there transferred? And, that.
So the good news was...
the lie detector test doesn't seem very...
The good news was the whole black market baby scheme was pretty easily proven to be a big fat lie. Sarah passed her lie detector test with flying colors. And, it was also absurd. Sarah was like, check my phone records.
Yeah.
Check my work schedule. No one is going to prove I was driving my Jeep around Katie Smith's apartment for months. If you track any amount of my life, you're going to see that literally has never happened.
Why did the family, what are they, their daughter is dead.
I think they're trying to save her reputation. I don't really, I don't know. I didn't really find anything. There
Yeah.
might be stuff about their motivation, but I didn't find anything about it.
Yeah.
My assumption was that they were trying to be like, our daughter's not crazy. She
was just trying to buy a baby. It's also, I mean, it doesn't like, it's not, doesn't make her like more sympathetic, really. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know. She's lonely. She's had this hard life. All she wants is love. She found this woman. You know, who knows? Whatever it is. But they felt like that was a good move to do.
Okay.
And it also super prolonged Sarah Brady's ordeal. So the other thing about it also, just for the record, was the whole story didn't fit the typical profile of a black market baby selling case, because usually I guess the price for a black market baby in 2005 was closer to $10,000. And Sarah Brady was not the type to sell her baby. It was usually single moms who had kept their pregnancy secret. And it was definitely not women who like announced their pregnancy to their entire family through a bathroom door and then like
put a bunch of Winnie the Pooh things on their wish list.
Had a big celebratory baby shower. Like those are typically not, you know.
Yeah.
And then through interviewers with family, investigators profiled Sarah Brady to be this like kind of how we know of her, this gentle, kind, nonviolent person, great relationship with her stepson, and that she wasn't really like risk-taking or adventurous or drama-seeking, right? She was a very like kind of calm, measured person, really active in her community, family oriented. She had absolutely no prior convictions, which I just want to say, you can also say all of that about the BTK killer. Like, like, you know, you never know, man. So just to say, but anyway, the interviews.
Damn, will you let this lady just live in her innocent peace, Muriel? Want to throw the BTK killer?
I love Sarah Brady. I'm just saying, it's like, you know, sometimes people are like, oh, well, they had the perfect life. It's like,
yeah, right.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people who are like, community booster member, you know, child clown, you know, that kind of bullshit. So,
no, I get it.
The interviews did, though, really help bolster Sarah's innocence. But the police were just still so reluctant to believe her. Like, everything she said checked out. Her story was consistent. But police kept hounding her, calling her with more questions about things she's already answered. Like, what was Katie wearing the day of the attack? Pajamas. The same sweatshirt she'd been wearing the day before. Did the sweatshirt have a pocket? Yes, like I said, it had a pocket. Did you ever call 911? Why didn't you even try to call 911? I told you. I did. I did call 3 times while I was holding the blade of the hunting knife and then twice outside the apartment. I have no idea what went through or whatever, but I did try to call 911. And in the end, investigators decided to take Sarah Brady's case to a grand jury for the final decision on whether or not to pursue charges. Because even after the extensive investigation, they were still having a hard time figuring out what the hell happened. So it turns out there had actually been 4 phone calls regarding their pregnant lady battle royale, and one of them had been made by Katie Smith herself. Only 3 of the calls were long enough to be transcribed. So first off, the call that Sarah made during the battle with the phone and the knife, that call actually never went through. But Sarah Brady didn't know that.
Yeah.
You know, she was pretty sure she had connected. So she actually didn't know that didn't go through. And the first actual phone call to 911 came from Katie Smith's house phone. So it was after Sarah Brady had escaped the apartment and been rejected by the older woman in the Jeep Cherokee outside Katie's apartment. As Sarah was walking up the hill towards the police station for help, she managed to actually connect to 911 on Katie's cordless house phone. But she was so out of it, she kind of didn't even realize it. She was just screaming into the phone so wildly. Dispatchers had no idea what she was saying, or even if she was a man or a woman. They also had no way of telling the phone call wasn't actually being made from inside the apartment.
Yeah, right.
Because
Because
it's the
now
home phone.
on a cell phone, they'll just be like, well, actually, it was 3 degrees parallel to the blah blah blah.
Right, but this is like essentially a home phone, right?
Yeah.
So police were immediately dispatched to Katie Smith's apartment. Now, the second 911 call came again from Katie Smith's house phone, and that was placed by Sarah as she was walking uphill to the police station again. But this time, she was so far out of range, the call immediately disconnected. So there's no transcription of that. But it did make police believe the second call was coming from Katie Smith's apartment.
Mm-hmm.
The third call did come from the older lady in the red Jeep Cherokee who called from her own house a few minutes later about a crazy pregnant lady with a knife walking down the street trying to get to the police station. Then, the fourth and final call to 911 came from Katie Smith herself.
Mm-hmm.
She said, quote, "Help, I've been stabbed. Some woman named Sarah broke into my apartment and attacked me." And when police got to Katie Smith's house, they found her dead in a pool of blood on the floor with no pants on. And for the life of them, police could not figure out why Sarah Brady kept insisting Katie Smith was pregnant. Like, she was a big gal, but she wasn't pregnant. She did not look 9 months pregnant for sure. And her autopsy showed she wasn't even a little pregnant. She just wasn't. So they had a dead, not pregnant woman in an apartment, 3 911 calls coming from her apartment, or so they thought.
Right.
One of which was fully naming Sarah Brady as her killer. And a very pregnant woman, on the other hand, who said she was the victim of an animalistic attack at the hands of a heavily pregnant woman and stabbed the dead woman in defense. And investigators also had some other pretty bizarre evidence on their hands. First up, they found a whole lot of gear to deliver a baby in Katie's apartment. An umbilical cord clamp, gloves, surgical scissors, and of course, this whole fully stocked baby's nursery. And then second, they later found a bloody pair of maternity underpants stuffed with a truckload of cotton fluff hidden in a closet.
Oh, so that's like the fake belly.
So putting it all together, it looked like after Katie Smith's attempt to murder Sarah Brady and steal her baby failed, she used her final moments of life to pull off one last bizarre, spectacular caper. While blood was spraying out of her artery, Katie Smith called police, framed Sarah Brady for murder, then pulled off her fake maternity belly and stuffed it in a closet, afterwards dying on her bedroom floor.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's why everyone was confused, man.
Right.
It was just a really crazy situation. So Sarah Brady gave birth to Michaela Grace on February 16th, 2005.
Oh, that was like a couple days ago. Happy birthday.
Yeah, just 6 days after her fight to the death with Katie Smith. And a year later, took a whole year, after a grand jury trial, Sarah Brady was found to have acted in self-defense and wasn't charged with any crime.
Right, so she never went to actual trial.
Right. And it was later discovered Katie Smith had faked about at least 11 pregnancies starting in 8th grade, and had also faked a stillborn delivery. She was so convincing over the years, she had collected hundreds of dollars from friends and family to cover the costs of baby showers, baby supplies, and even a funeral for her fake stillborn baby. So this isn't quite the end of the story, because there's one more person that Katie pretty profoundly affected. So weirdly enough, Katie Smith and Sarah Brady, they actually had somewhat similar childhoods. They both grew up in Kentucky with big families, lots of girls. Katie's family was a lot more financially well off than Sarah's, but her parents were a mess, like raging alcoholics. And while Sarah Brady was able to deal with her unstable home life by channeling that energy into being an academic overachiever, unfortunately, Katie Smith just got real weird really early. She was a liar. So she lied. She lied a lot. She lied about everything. By 8th grade, she was lying about having lupus, fibromyalgia, Crohn's disease, polycystic ovaries. She said she had a degenerative joint disease and acid reflux. She was a regular at the local ER who often just treated her symptoms by having her breathe into a paper bag. In high school, she told her classmates she was pregnant a bunch of different times. And, unfortunately, she got bullied a lot. She would show up to school wearing maternity clothes often. Her parents tried to get her psychiatric help, but she flat out refused. And then starting in 1998, a public record of her parents' unraveling marriage started appearing in 911 calls and CPS cases. So, 911 calls because her dad headbutted her mom, and then her mom overdosed on pills and Jack Daniels and had to be resuscitated. And they were full on all family member brawls involving everyone in the house. One time, Katie's mom got so drunk her young kids had to call 911 for a welfare check, and they were found in this filthy house with bad cases of head lice. The oldest daughter ran away at one point, leaving Katie, the second oldest, in charge. And when she was 15, she called police to report child neglect and abuse. According to Katie, she was basically the mom of the house at the time, so parentified. She fed the other girls, but obviously it was a horrible mess. Their house was always filthy with cockroaches. Their father was known for answering the door drunk and naked. The house had garbage piled, filthy toilets, everything covered in garbage and junk and dirty clothes. And, Katie's room itself had no visible floor, completely filled with garbage. And not just hers either, right? It was just kind of a group hoarding situation. Eventually, Katie's parents gave up custody of all 5 of their girls, went into rehab facilities, and sort of started, everyone was scattered to the wind.
Yeah.
And then in 2001, Katie told police her father, Tim Smith, had molested her from the ages of 7 to 13. Now, there wasn't much evidence in the case, just Tim Smith's absolute failure at parenting documented through CPS and police reports. But the main evidence in the case was presented by an expert witness, Kim Wolf, who said Katie suffered from repressed memory syndrome, that she had buried the memories of being molested deep into her subconscious, and then Katie was recently triggered and the memories surfaced. So we've talked about this on the pod before, but this repressed memory thing is pretty controversial.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it actually still can be used at trial, but it can only be used, people are a lot more skeptical about it. And it generally can only be used as evidence in court if there are other forms of evidence to corroborate it or to back it up, which in Tim Smith's case, there was no other evidence. But back in 2001, that didn't matter. That was a newer concept, and people were more accepting of that theory in court.
Mm-hmm.
So the entire Smith family came out on Tim's side. Basically, the line of defense was that Tim was an absolute shit dad, but that he had never molested any of his girls. And I just want to add in, even though this whole story is so crazy and whatever, no one knows for sure what went down between Katie and her father. I mean, I don't know what kind of evidence surfaces sometimes, when things happen years prior. So it's I don't know. I just want to say, nobody knows what happened. But that happens to a lot of people, that the whole family is denies it. and it's a horrific way to deal with abuse.
For sure.
So,
and we also know repressed memories are sometimes false.
Well, that's why it's so controversial.
Right. It comes out, and I mean, I will say on a personal level, I know of a couple people who have had repressed memories that came out, and everyone in their life was like, I'm sorry, that's just not true.
And it just blows everything up.
So,
it's super controversial. Very nowadays, people are very skeptical of it.
Well, I think also, I know slightly from personal experience, but I mean, not personal experience, but, people I know where it's like, and I didn't read an academic paper on it or whatever, but you can be like weirdly hypnotized into believing the repressed memories. So it's not just like a lie that's like, oh, I'm lying about this quote unquote repressed memory. It's that I actually think that something is true.
It's the method that can sometimes produce false memories.
Right.
And so I think that's a big part of why it's controversial. It's not because necessarily people are intentionally lying. It's just the method to which you get there can produce things that just didn't exist. So
also, I'll just claim it right now. There are things that I forgot that I remembered, and then when I remembered them, I'm like, damn, I must have repressed them. Like, wow, I was really not trying to think about that.
A lot of people repress memories. So it's so it's a complicated thing. But anyway, that was essentially the only thing that the prosecution had going was this expert witness claiming that Katie was having this repressed memory syndrome. At any rate, none of Katie Smith's history of lying about illnesses and pregnancies was deemed admissible in court. No one corroborated her story at all about being molested. And then the only evidence presented in court was fairly weak and circumstantial. So there was some stuff, but it wasn't really anything that would have stood on its own. In the end, though, Tim Smith was convicted of molesting Katie and sentenced to 20 years in prison. So, after Sarah Brady's murderous ordeal with Katie Smith and the crazy story that emerged after the investigation and grand jury trial, the Kentucky Innocence Project took another look at Tim Smith's conviction.
Yeah.
And they found Tim's defense hadn't adequately vetted the repressed memory specialist credentials at all, and then made a lot of other sort of rookie mistakes during the trial. And his defense lawyer actually, after all this stuff came out, admitted at the time he had very little experience working with felony cases and absolutely no experience with repressed memory theory.
Yeah.
So to him, he thought he didn't even think to ask questions.
Right.
So shortly after, a grand jury failed to bring any charges against Sarah Brady in relation to Katie Smith's death. After serving several years in prison, her dad, Tim Smith, his 20-year sentence was vacated on grounds of false expert testimony and perjury. So he was also released from prison. And that's the end of that story, man.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad Sarah Brady survived.
Yeah,
I'm just literally so happy, and for her baby.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Because that's... I mean, does she talk about in the book, does she talk about, regretting having not heeded the warnings more, or
Oh, God, she said something so great. I can't remember what it was. It was something like... I mean, it was essentially it felt like some sort of either biblical or Southern saying. It was so great. It's something like, you can't tell a fool what to do. She's like, I'm not going to do that again. It was fully admitting.
Yeah, I don't think that's biblical, but.
No. I mean, it's like something like very, like something like fool me once, shame on me, but it wasn't that. But it was just like the perfect saying. But essentially it was her being fully culpable of being
damn, that was pretty dumb.
Yeah, that was pretty dumb.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't tell a fool what to do.
Yeah.
They're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So, I admit it. She was pretty cool about it.
I mean, that's great. I wonder, damn, man, I hope she's doing well. I wonder if she had to go through a bunch of therapy and stuff.
I will say this. Oh, yeah, me too. I hope she's doing well. And I just am self-centered. So I was just going to say this. If I was in a position where I genuinely thought someone was 9 months pregnant and they were having a psychotic break, I would not know what to do. I get the hesitancy. I get the needing to kind of I think I would stay too long.
Yeah.
In a dangerous situation like that. I could see myself sort of wanting to make sure they're not going to hurt themselves or the baby, or just trying to see where it's going, or trying to get them to calm down and find a way to call 911, or something, you know, like
Well, it would just be. I mean, that's what I think would make such a powerful movie. Like really amazing actresses, you know, like find someone who's really good, who can really convince someone to stay, you know?
see, that's what I think. I think that she
Yeah.
was really convincing.
Yeah.
And I think that and all of this personal stuff she shared and the, you know, sympathetic story, and she clearly was alone. She didn't have any family members around, you know, and it's like I think that there is a world in which, like, a lot of the time I think about I think like Crime Junkie coined this or something like that, but I love the idea of just being like just like be rude. Get out of a situation. It's okay
Yeah.
to be rude.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like don't let politeness be the thing that puts you in danger. And
Yeah.
especially like that comes, I think it's definitely when it comes to women, a lot of the time, like just be rude and do the thing that's gonna be safe for you. But like that is like that is one particular scenario. This is a particular scenario where I think that would trip my alarm a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I think with like a scary person who's not pregnant, who's like giving me bad gut feelings.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem, even if I care about them. I don't have any problem being like, all right, we're just gonna break that. This is done.
Well, especially if you were pregnant too and just feeling like so also emotional and then like you know sympathetic to this person that's in a similar situation but seemingly a lot worse situation.
And she's in a bad situation, you know, and like also like they're bonding. She lost her job, free coupons.
Yeah.
You know, like stuff that they need that they're not gonna be able to buy. Free coupons for formula. Like, you know, she's like, we're in different situations, but we're both in tenuous situations for 9-month pregnant women, you know? So you would bond, you know what I mean? So I think that there is this sort of, when I listened to this story, like I listened to her interview, the first, just the condensed version. I was like, girl, this lady's real crazy. Like immediately I was like, come on, there's so many red flags. But reading her history, like Sarah Brady's life and where she came from up until that point and what kind of person she is, like, I think you see like the deep empathy that she has for people and why she would have such deep empathy for someone in that position and why it would kind of like trick her, you know, or why it would cloud her judgment. But man, she just like knocked that knife out of her hand, flipped her upside down. She fought that lady.
Yeah, she went off.
Like she's little.
Yeah.
So I did like that part of the story too.
Hell yeah.
she beat her ass. Woo! All right.
I think we need to, that'll be like the housemaid like reunion casting with Amanda Seyfried and Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah.
You know? I think Seyfried plays the crazy lady.
Oh, not okay. Yeah. I get what you're saying. As actresses. Yeah. I like Seyfried.
Yeah.
Sweeney can do whatever she does. I want a different one. Ooh,
what?
The chick from Hamnet.
Jessie Buckley.
Jessie Buckley?
Yeah.
She'd crush.
In either role. She should play them both.
Yeah.
That would be sick. Oh, that'd be so tight.
Like a new version of Parent Trap.
I was more thinking
pun-wise.
Pun-wise. Oh, okay.
All right, we gotta go.
Bye, everyone. We love you. We'll be back at some point in the not so distant future.
Well, for you guys, we'll be back.
Yeah.
Soon.
We'll see you guys soon. Bye.